Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today it is going to be an adventure, because we are recording on 4/20. We've got an episode written by John Swartzwelder, and it's a traveling episode, which, you know, can be a really fun or a not so fun thing, and we're going to have opinions, because that's what we do here at Diddly. And when I say we, of course, I do, of course, return. I said, of course, twice, but that's okay, because, of course, I'm referring to your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
I'm doing okay, of course, like I always am. Man, it's been a while since I've seen this episode. I thought that it was like okay and maybe kind of memorable, not that memorable, but I might have had some issues with a few moments in this one. Yeah, and something that may be a little bit reminiscent of last week's episode. So I am intrigued and interested to talk to you about that and see how you feel. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Let me go ahead and throw it back to you on this very negative tone here. The man, the myth, the possible police. It is Miles.
Bro, I'm just going to say it, man. I'm thinking it sounds like the exact opposite experience, because I was feeling a little bit in a funk after our review of Bye Bye Nerdy, honestly. I not like down. I enjoyed our podcast. I enjoyed our conversation. In fact, I would argue that our podcast covering Bye Bye Nerdy is a better experience than the episode itself. Oh, shots fired, Simpsons writers. Want to come back on the show and defend it? Either way, I love this episode. I also didn't really have a strong memory of it. I had a loose memory of it's like the one where they find the chimpanzee, reservoir safety place. Mm-hmm. I can't think of the word I'm trying to find right now, but the place where monkeys go to be safe.
Reservation.
Yeah. No, dude, that's if Homer had his way, he'd grind them into like a juicy monkey paste and then just have a reservoir of it on standby.
Diamonds.
We are talking about the episode today, Simpson Safari, which appropriately enough released on April Fool's Day. April 1st of the year 2001. We do have a chalk gag on this one, which is I will not flush evidence, and the couch gag by the commentary's own admission, all the way back to Al Jean and Mike Reese, who came up with the idea to do the extended circus couch gag anytime your episode is running just a little bit short of the mark.
Every time I see that opening, I write down, this must be a very short episode.
On the commentary, they actually said that since that time, they've even made longer couch gags for the exact same reason. So we'll have to look at those in the future. I will say the commentary on this one features Mike Scully, Yardley Smith, Ian Maxstone Graham, Tim Long, Matt Selman, Mark Marcanto, and Mark Kirkland via Zoom, I guess, or whatever the equivalent was at the time from Burbank. I already mentioned that this episode was written by John Swartzwelder, who was unable to make this commentary today. And legend has it, at least according to this commentary staff, they felt pretty confidently that it was actually a pitch by Larry Doyle that sparked Swartzwelder to write this episode. So a lot of talent involved in this one, and not an overly packed. I mentioned a lot of names there, but there is not so many that we didn't get some good nuggets of information from this commentary track.
I'm curious, and maybe you can just tease it a little bit. But at the end, it makes the statement about the Bag Boys of America. Was there like a situation with one of the people that pitched ideas for this episode where they actually led to them writing the episode because they had a bad experience in a supermarket with the Bag Boy?
No, they did talk about it on the commentary. It was actually one of the very first things that I have on my notes here.
Oh, okay.
But that was just inspired by the fact that there was an actual strike happening at grocery stores in California at that time. It was basically like a labor wage type of issue. They were, demanding more of it. And
here's flash forward to now.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. You should have stayed on the picket line on that one. But yeah, good point. But yeah, so nothing really too crazy other than just, art imitating real life.
Fair enough.
I did think
they had a real
they
rude
also
bag boy and they wrote about it or something. That would have been
they
funny.
just had a bad experience. This kid's still bitter at bag boys even when he goes on vacation.
Yeah.
They did mention that in the script originally it was actually Mr. Burns who was being kind of a nuisance along with Homer, and they changed it to Agnes Skinner, which makes so much more sense because Mr. Burns would not be doing grocery shopping.
No.
Mr. Burns might visit a grocery store if he was like curious what peasants did when they were hungry.
I can see a good bit where like he goes in to give somebody like a nickel for like a whole bunch of candy, and then he realizes the price is astronomically high. He's like, who can afford this?
You can't even get a bag, let alone 5 in case you eat 4 on the way home.
Yeah.
I do love the opening of this, though. We open up with Homer, Bart, and Lisa all grocery shopping, and Homer is like reading the list. But I love the line, olive oil, asparagus. Ugh, if your mother wasn't so fancy, we could shop at the gas station like normal people. which is exceptionally funny in this universe because they almost exclusively shop at the Quickie Mart in every episode.
Yeah, and you got to think like when you go to like a gas station or a quick stop, all that stuff inside that's like grocery type items are more expensive than if you just go to the grocery store.
Of course, yeah, you're paying a convenience fee, hence the convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
I do love that all of the kids, including Homer, are essentially taking advantage of the fact that Homer is in charge. They're getting things like candy, cupcakes, beer, a big old bottle of wine.
Bart says, I need this candy for school. And Homer's looking at it and Bart goes, candy class.
Okay, but you might need to get 5 bags in case we eat 4 of them on the way home.
And then I think Lisa's like, I need cupcakes for my teacher said I need cupcakes to learn.
And that's when Bart comes back with a wine, and they are literally just pushing everything. Even at one point, Homer's like, I don't understand why Marge complains about this. And he just takes his arm and like almost like if he was on Supermarket Sweep.
Yeah.
Like funneled it all into his cart. Like, oh man, I'm assuming Marge does the budgeting.
Homer's holding up the duff like my doctor says, and my garage mechanics agree that
Bart's like in the cart. But yeah, so the grocery shopping is going great, and even at one point when Homer's like, "Oh yeah, this is awesome. We should do this more often," Bart's like, "Yeah, I hope Maggie has to go to the emergency room more often."
Yeah, and I don't remember this bit when it actually like shows what's wrong with Maggie, because then it goes over to Dr. Hibbert's office and she had somehow swallowed a magazine and it's unfolded inside of her.
It was a Time magazine, Richie. Does that matter?
Oh my God. There was something terrible going on. I like when Dr. Hibbert like makes it sound like there's something wrong with Maggie, but then he's reading the actual cover of the magazine.
Yeah, Marge is concerned because it seems like, oh no, what's wrong with Maggie? But he's like, oh no, this is terrible. Hardliners are gaining influence in Syria. I actually really just appreciate too. I made the joke about Homer acting like a kid, but really, the 3 of them together is really kind of fun because we get a lot of Homer and Bart, and we get a lot of Lisa and Bart. I'm sorry, Lisa. Well, actually, we get that too. We get Lisa and Bart, we get Homer and Bart, we get Homer and Lisa. We don't necessarily get a ton of just the 3 of them without Marge, and there is kind of that like, I don't know, when the whatever's away, the kids will play. I can't remember what that saying is.
Yeah, the rare times that you do get the 3 of them together, it's almost like Bart and Lisa are at odds with each other when that happens. So it's really cool to see all 3 of them like on the same page.
On the same page, yeah.
Yeah, even if they're doing something completely wrong.
Exactly. And Yardley even popped in on the commentary and mentioned how much she just loves it when she just gets to be a kid as Lisa. And not have to, be the one that's like condemning everybody or whatever.
I'm sure that takes a lot out of you when you have to be that like voice of reason and no, let's do the right thing over and over again.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? This is a good time to talk about another part of the commentary since we are talking about Yardley specifically. During this episode, Yardley talked about the fact that she actually used to do a lot more voices, or at least several more than the one that she currently does. When they were on the Tracy Ullman show, she had voiced an old lady who that eventually went to Tress MacNeille. And then she also used to be the one that did the Maggie sounds, the pacifiers and all that good stuff. But when they switched over to making it their own syndicated show, it was actually Nancy Cartwright that took over those sounds. So they didn't really mention why, but even like Mike Scully, for instance, and several of the writers and animators and directors that were on this commentary, that was news to them. So they were even surprised by that. Yeah, they did not even realize that was the case, because again, that was back on the Tracy Ullman show. And you could tell Yardley was, I would argue, somewhere between mildly frustrated and disappointed, because it was almost like, I don't know why they took that from me. I enjoyed doing that type of thing. Which is, it is interesting though, that was almost like felt like it was revealed on this commentary.
Yeah, that's very intriguing. What's going on in the Simpsons world, Miles?
I don't know, my dude. I don't know. I'll have more from Yardley at the end, but for right now, you mentioned the voice of reason. Homer is definitely not that. He is every person who's ever worked in customer service's worst nightmare. Because he's literally just talking to this minimum wage paid bag boy. And he's like, wait, I changed my mind. Stack it in the order that I'll be eating it while driving home.
Good call. Sir, please. I already bagged it by color and an order of each item's discovery by man.
And then he says the thing that will immediately get you mocked and laughed at in retail. Customer's always right. That's what everybody likes about us. Now mush.
You tell him, Jumbo.
And this is Agnes, who's still insulting Homer while taking his side, which is actually pretty incredible. And I love her instructions.
And you start over. I want everything in the bag. In one
bag.
Yes,
ma'am. But it can't be heavy, right?
No, it can't absolutely not be heavy.
I don't think that's possible, ma'am.
What are you, the possible police? Just do it.
Okay, I'm gonna fess up right here, and I was 100%, again, hadn't seen this episode in a while, so I was 100% thinking that they were setting it up to do the gimmick right here, where because of like the stalling that was happening, it was gonna make Homer like the 1 millionth customer or whatever, and that was gonna be the reason they went to Africa. Like, I just had that like popped up in my mind, which I'm guessing they do on The Simpsons at some point.
Which I'm gonna tell you right now, Miles, that's too straightforward of an episode. You actually gotta,
especially for a Short Swelder episode. I was, I don't mean to insult the man.
You know how it goes, man. Like, they gotta have that random tangent where they just veer in a random direction, and it has little to do with the original plot of the episode.
For sure, yeah, you gotta have that just like random twist, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Twisted, much like a French baguette that Homer is using to jab his bad boy while telling him to hurry up and package shit. The bag boy is crying out that bag boys have feelings too, you know.
Oh, we do? No, we don't.
The manager finally steps in, but it's too late because the bag boys have just declared that the Sac Suffers Local 199 are calling a strike, and in unison, they all leave the bagging area and go outside to picket their unfair conditions.
Oh, finally standing up for the little guy.
And it's making an effect because apparently without somebody to bag your groceries, the entire grocery system from people being able to stock their homes down just completely falls apart, because we find while the picketers are happening, and to be fair, they are being very aggressive. Because like at one point Lenny is even packing his car and one of them like pokes the stuff out of his hands with a stick to make him drop it. And I almost missed a joke that I absolutely love. It's like a quick moment that makes zero sense, but it's just hilarious. Lenny is like upset because he's like, oh no, how am I going to get stuff for my casual party? And we cut over to Carl, who's dressed as formally as could possibly be, and just simply is like, casual?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. It makes me laugh every freaking time.
The part I love about this whole bit is, again, flash forward to now, and how many grocery stores still have people that bag food for you?
Right?
Like we're all doing it ourselves now, and they're still getting paid. Which I'm not.
Dude, hell, I mean, if you want to make that argument, this is kind of getting into cliche territory, but like I have not been trained on how to scan my items and check myself out, which is why I don't feel guilty when some of my items at Walmart don't get scanned sometimes. Again, I have not gone through the proper protocol to know how to operate this machine. That's on you.
if I'm going to be operating this thing too, they need to give me the code to like prove that I'm 21 so that I don't have to wait for somebody to walk over there when I'm buying a 6-pack of beer, right? Like
that's the worst. Yeah.
I want to go fast. Like I will hold beer up in front of people as I'm setting it on the counter so they see it, so they know to come over, so I don't have to wait for them to get over there. Like, hurry the hell up. What are you doing? Bagging my groceries? Oh, wait, no.
Nope. Not since the 90s.
These baggers are gonna listen to this episode, and then they're gonna go on strike.
Oh, they're gonna strike against our podcast, yeah. And I think we pretty exclusively have bag boys as listeners. So we're probably taking the wrong side.
We're hurting our key demographic here. Yeah.
Historically speaking, we're gonna look back on the Best Darn Diddly review show, and this is gonna be the episode we're like, yep, that was where we crossed the line.
We jumped the shark on that one. Happens in every show.
Yeah, it's true. It's going to happen to you too. And it'll happen to you. The grocery situation is falling apart, y'all. The Simpsons have nothing in their pantries. I mean, how could they possibly get it there without having groceries put in bags for them? They are trying to find anything, but they've got things like gopher jerky and cream of toast. Where did we even get all this crap?
Most of it was sent by relatives who couldn't see very well. Oh, crap. That's rude, Marge. It's so rude, right?
Ironic, because Richie's suffering with eye issues today.
I'm having so much trouble reading the script right now.
I mean, he literally did have eye surgery yesterday, so I think it's okay for him to struggle. But tomorrow, you better have your shit together, bro.
I have my other eye surgery tomorrow, you jackass.
I've got my other eye tomorrow. That's you. That's me being you right now. I
can still hear.
Oh, man. Bart pops up in the window and he's like so proud because he has a nest and he's like, I've got some eggs. The mother must have abandoned her nest. But then like immediately a crow starts like attacking Bart, pecking at his eyes and literally taking him to the ground.
See, that's one of the parts that I felt was weird. The way he popped up in the window right there, it just felt a little off. Like, I'm sure it's because it had nothing to do with the main story and they needed a quick little like throwaway joke there. But that part felt a little bit off to me. And there's another part that
interesting. That part just made me laugh. I didn't think about it being off-putting at all.
But that happens to people too. I think that my dad always told me that happened to him one time when he walked across the ground and there was a broken bird's egg on the ground and a bird started attacking him.
Interesting.
It always made me worried to walk under birds' nests. I mean, you no harm.
It's like Alfred Hitchcock all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Birds are kind of terrifying. Honestly, my favorite conspiracy theory right now, the most fun one at least, I think, is the fact that some people believe that birds don't actually exist and the government just uses them to monitor us. And therefore, migration is not actually a thing. That's just when they change all the batteries out.
That's a pretty clever idea. That's so many batteries you'd have to change.
That's a lot of batteries, honestly. Yeah, there's a lot of birds in the sky.
We need to buy stock in battery companies if this is true.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get my slingshot and try to take down a bird robot so I can figure out what type of batteries they take.
You buy during the months that they're not migrating. That's when you buy the stock in those battery companies.
Yeah,
and then you sell during the migration season.
Stonks, baby, to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we actually get some fun animal action here, not in a weird way, just in a fun way that is innocent and sweet and wholesome and family-like, because Santa's Little Helper, I don't think I made that better. I think I somehow made it worse. But Santa's Little Helper catches the scent of food and starts to, it's actually pretty funny because, you can see he doesn't want the rest of the family to know that he's on to something, so he's, trying to sneak away. But the Simpsons pretty much immediately notice, and even though Santa's Little Helper is trying to misdirect them, literally pointing his paw, look over there, yoink, run away. He runs up to the attic where he discovers an old lunchbox, a very old lunchbox that has an even older box of animal crackers in it, I assume. They did bring up on the commentary, it was actually Yardley again who asked, not the other Yardley thing I have to talk about, but Yardley was the one that asked if they had gotten, basically who they got to do Santa's Little Helper for that episode. Uh-oh. And it was Dan Castellaneta, as it normally is. However, all of the other animals in this episode, and when we get to Africa, were done by Frank Welker, who is a pretty legendary voice actor. does the voice of Scooby-Doo, and also very known for many animal noises. Almost has made a career on just doing that, frankly.
That's cool that like Dan can hold his name up and right there with him, though.
It's very cool.
Even though Sam's Little Helper is the most prominent of animals on The Simpsons.
I would say that's true. Yeah. The only ones that could possibly give him a run for his money would be Snowball 2 or Itchy and Scratchy.
Yeah, but they're animated. I mean, technically they're all animated.
Yeah, the Sam's Little Helper is a real dog.
Exactly. If you would have said Laddie, I might have possibly agreed with you.
And they were only in one episode.
But it was real, Miles.
That would be like arguing for Poochie.
No.
Poochie, I think, is in more than one episode.
But he's animated. This conversation's going.
This cartoon is insane.
Uh-huh.
And
somehow Itchy and Scratchy cut off a real mother's head in the last episode.
That's true.
None of it makes sense.
It's all a conspiracy.
There's batteries in them. They're dogs.
I was going to make a battery joke. That's where we're going. Nice. All right. We're in the attic. They pull out this old. It's a Burke's Law lunchbox. Who I honestly have no idea who that is, but apparently It's a show that Homer was very into as a child in the 60s. We know that because it contains an animal cracker box that Marge points out is from the 60s, but Homer is so hungry, he does not care. He is munching on them stale cookies until he takes a bite and goes, ow! Finding a solid gold animal cracker. Lisa grabs the box and realizes, wow, there's a contest. If you find the golden giraffe, they send your entire family to Africa.
Africa! They're bound to have food there.
Oh, that joke's so fucked up, but also very, very funny.
Oh my gosh.
Honestly, this next scene is also pretty fucked up in general because it feels like one of those times that it's just too true to real life. Homer is there trying to claim his free prize, which, to be fair, is like 30 years dated by the time this episode comes out, close to 40, really. Yeah. Almost 60 now. But the executive points out that when Homer asks, he wants to do everything that's on the contest promotion. He wants to shoot a lion in the face. He wants to box Muhammad Ali. And he wants to ride in a convertible driven by 2 happy zebras.
Sir, that contest ended 30 years ago. We don't make animal crackers anymore.
They point out that they now make household poisons and Christmas lights, which is the obvious business to transition into. But Homer is like, you know what? Your box made promises of a vacational nature, and I expect you to live up to them.
We won't, though.
And the other executive stands up, holds a box in front of Homer's face, and points out, sir, with all due respect, an old box of cookies is not a legal contract. But as he's kind of literally waving that in Homer's face, the old, 30-year-old string on that box actually snaps, and it causes the corner of the box to hit Homer in the eye, which immediately puts the execs into a huddle where they are like, "Oh no, we made those corners too sharp, and that is an obviously defective string, so he could sue us." So immediately they're like, "You know what? We are going to send you on your vacation."
Woohoo! Hey, mister.
Yes.
And this is the part that I had issue with. On the plane, I'm going to need 2 seats for the twins.
And he slaps his ass. Dude, again, I laughed my ass off at that one.
It felt like too over the top for me. It didn't feel like a Simpsons joke to me in that moment.
Interesting. I thought it was another moment. In fact, I have that written down as a Simpsons did it because this is several years before Kevin Smith had that issue.
It did. He actually ended up
had to buy 2 plane tickets on Southwest Airlines because he was so fat he took 2 seats.
Yeah, it did make me think of that, and I thought maybe that had already happened, and that's why they did it. But I don't know. It just this particular I don't even like the way the line was delivered in the actual episode. I don't know if I delivered it the same way as Dan did in that one, and I'm not saying I'm a better voice actor than Dan. I'm just saying
you heard it here first. Yeah, Richie is petitioning for Dan Castellaneta's job.
But I don't know. That joke just felt a little bit off. There's a lot of great moments in this episode, a lot of funny stuff, but there's just some little things right there that I feel like it's almost a glue from the previous episode.
So you mentioned that one. You mentioned
The
Bart one with the birds. How did you feel about the Lenny Carl joke?
The Lenny Carl joke? I mean, I was fine with that one.
Okay, I'm just curious
because
that one kind of feels like in the same vein of the other two that you're talking about.
I feel like just the delivery in those two just seemed out of place, whereas Lenny was already in the store and Carl happened to be there. And like the Simpsons have always done throwaway jokes, like that's just kind of a staple and a stopgap for certain scenes. But
and
like
then
I
Family Guy saw that and is like, hey, what if we just made like the oops all throwaway jokes version of that show?
Yeah. But I just feel like in the past, kind of like we talked about last week, they took a little more care with it in certain parts. And again, it could just be that they were hitting a rough patch where, you know, everyone's not feeling it as much for a while. I mean, the good news with this episode is there's still a lot of great humor in it. Which is typical of most Schwartzwelder episodes. But yeah, there's just certain parts in this one where I just, somebody should have been like slapped on the wrist for that one and they should have gone back and tried again. I'm not saying they should have been fired. I'm definitely not saying Dan should have been fired.
No, you want Dan to lose his job. That's what we're taking away. I'm gonna tag him in the tweet with this episode and just be like, cool. Hey Dan, be careful. Richie's coming for you.
Awesome.
Homer, the twins, and the rest of the family are all on their way to Africa, where we actually cut and see a tribe in Africa who's having some sort of celebration. A guy named Nagungo is dancing and having a good time, but suddenly is overcome with a lurking fear, I would say, comes over his face. And he like tells the rest of his tribe, oh no, there's an evil coming.
What should we do in Gungo?
And Nagungo takes off his like leader's tribe's mask that he was wearing and hands it off and is like, you are Nagungo now, and runs away. Again, very much gave me you are I am the captain now vibe. So this was years before that movie came out. That does bring us to the end of our first act at 5 minutes and 39 seconds. The Simpsons have already acquired.
We've been talking for 30 minutes, Miles.
That's on pace for us. We're doing our part right now. The Simpsons are needing to get their ass to Africa so we can move on with the episode.
All right. Hopefully they have a plane or something to get them there.
They do fly out. I love, honestly, the in-flight magazine that Marge is reading. It's like I think it's just called like Unnecessary, or like you don't need this, like something of that nature, which is literally like the dopest and also silliest part of any flight I've ever been on. I love like reading through Sky Mall, but like some of the stuff that's in there is just like, what stoner ass person came up with this product, and why can you only buy it in flight?
Yeah, there you go. That's the truth behind it all right there.
I really also like this bit here where the flight attendants are making announcements to the passengers, and they say, hey, please prepare for our landing in Tanzania. But then somebody taps her on the shoulder and is like, oh, excuse me. It is now called New Zanzibar. And then it happens again. She's given a note. And, one more time, please prepare for our landing. We'll be arriving at Pepsi Presents New Zanzibar.
Pepsi overthrew the government, huh?
It would seem that way. The Simpsons are greeted by their guide. I believe his name was Kitenji. Is that right?
Kitenge or something.
Kitenge. That's what Kitenge. You are correct. They welcome him to Africa. They get in a Jeep. They're running around. Lisa is like, oh my God, that's so cute. You have a bush baby. But Kitenge is like, what? Where? And he like freaks out and shoos it away. Man, I just bought this shirt. We also notice that they see a lot of signs for the leader Muntu, who seized power in a bloodless coup, Rich. All smothering. Just like Jimmy Carter.
That joke got me. Like, I thought that was pretty dang hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So this is interesting. Again, from the commentary, Mark Kirkland, who is the director of this episode, he actually visited Africa as a kid, and a lot of the things that we are going to see, he tried to just essentially bring as many of his memories from his childhood trip to Africa as he possibly could. which I feel like gave this episode a lot of authenticity. Obviously, there's a lot of spoof and whatnot. Oh my God, I can't wait to talk about the hippo. It's my favorite part, I think. But like, there's a lot of authenticity. Oh, and also rhinos don't come from eggs. I Googled it. But you know, just the authenticity you get from somebody who's actually been to that country, I think is kind of cool. And honestly, I would imagine it would be kind of neat for them to be able to, like, in their mind, try to like go back and revisit their thoughts on that vacation.
I just think it's cool that Katenge knows everybody, and they all seem to like him. Like, he is the it man. I would. It
kind of makes sense for the ending, right?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I like that they set it up like that, because he's politicking from an early part. Not even in like that makes it sound dirty, because politicking has such a negative connotation, but I legitimately meant it in a positive way. He says hello and greets and chats with every single person he comes encounter with, and like you said, they all seem to both admire and respect him when they see him.
And considering he kind of was left for dead at one point in the episode, it's good to know that he made it.
They do some jokes here that I will admit would be more fitting for Australia than I think Africa, just as like the deadly animal concept that they do here. But like, for instance, Homer tries to toss up his luggage into their tree fort where they'll be staying, but he misses and it lands in a giant spider web. And then an enormous spider comes out, sprays venom on it, causing it to shrink down and essentially disintegrate. And I love Homer's just like, it was bound to happen.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is my nightmare. I've had something similar happen to me where I got like lit up on my back by mosquitoes and like bugs. Basically, my back was miserable. I got so many bug bites. But
did you have the net on backwards, Miles?
No, I didn't. Like, legitimately, I didn't. But what I did not know was I usually don't sleep with many clothes on, if any. I don't ever sleep with a shirt on. But the first night I slept in a hammock, I learned the hard way that mosquitoes and chiggers specifically can actually bite you through the thin layer of a hammock. So it's very important to wear clothes when sleeping in a hammock if you're going to be in nature.
Interesting.
Yeah. Take it from me, kids. You cover up.
Very interesting.
This is actually based, though, on another event from Mark Kirkland's trip, because it wasn't that somebody had like the mosquito net backwards. Obviously, that doesn't make sense. But there was legitimately a case where one of his friends had a mosquito that was in the net with him and ended up biting him throughout the night multiple times, and he caught malaria. So,
that is like worst case scenario.
Honestly, dude, probably the hardest I laughed during this entire episode was when Mark Kirkland revealed that, like, without missing a beat, Mike Scully was like, "Well, at least your story has a happy ending."
That's fucked up.
Yeah, it kind of was, man. Also fucked up when Tenge is like, "In the morning, little one," or "Yeah, I'll see you in the morning, little one. Now, good night. Don't let the bed bugs paralyze." That sounds a little too specific. Marge even asks, they do the classic bit where all the lights go out and all you can see are the Simpsons' eyes as they open them. So Marge opens her eyes and says, "Homie, did you remember to tip Katenge?" And Katenge's eyes open up in the background. It's like, no, he did not. We see the Simpsons the next day are off on their safari. Bart is playing like animal bingo, I guess, and he's excited because he's looking at Lisa and being like, "Hey, I see a warthog."
Mom, Bart's calling me a warthog.
Nobody's a warthog.
I'm looking at one right now.
And as the camera that does the classic pan out bit, and right behind Lisa, who we all thought Bart was calling a warthog, there is an actual warthog in the car. This is where we see things like the rhinoceros hatching from an egg, even though Lisa's like, "Wait, Factual. That's not how rhinos are born."
What did you just see, Lisa?
I know, but like,
what did you just see?
And then a giraffe pops its head out from like a prairie dog hole, and Lisa's just like, "What is happening here? Come on."
It's got to be true. It's in nature.
Katenge points out a cheetah to Marge, who she looks through it at binoculars and like, "It doesn't look that fast." But then as soon as she puts the binoculars down, the cheetah has already cleared the distance between them and is now right in her face. That's also a really good visual joke.
Yeah, it was.
Oh man. And then Katenge just shoos the Cheeto away, which is also funny. But then as they're on their drive, Katenge is playing what sounds like pop music, but with African lyrics. But it sounds like American pop music at the time, almost as if like NSYNC could have made it. But Katenge is singing along in what sounds like an actual like human language. But then Homer's like, "Hey, take it away," and he's just like making the like "ooh blah blah da." He's basically doing gibberish like I did on the Camp/Horror.
I was going to say, I wrote down Homer pulled a Miles with the native singing in my notes.
Mine was far less offensive. I want to be clear for the record.
Okay, you say so.
Not to the people directly on the podcast with me, but to like culture in general.
In general.
We unfortunately see the dark side of the safari scene in Africa, which is that poaching is a very real thing. We see poachers are actually scooping up, which looks to be like that same cheetah from earlier. But fortunately, Katenge is actually able to scare them away before they're able to get them all the way secured on the truck. And the cheetah is, in fact, able to escape. And the poachers
whoa, Miles. Now, Miles, poachers are nature's way of keeping the balance. Remember, there are so many species that people get confused and angry. A poacher is born.
Yeah, you're right. I need to keep that in mind. But yeah, the shot that Katenge fires does, in fact, keep them away and saves the cheetah, at least for now. They continue going on their tour of Africa, and they actually get to go to the Olduvai Gorge, where the earliest known fossil of human beings are just out and about with no protection right there in the soil for Homer to come up and look at. This is not actually a real place, but it is very much based. Like, I mean, Africa is like a place where we get some of the oldest fossils and oldest human fossils that we as a species have discovered. So there is a lot of truth to this joke as well.
Whatever. I've got more bones than that guy. If you're trying to impress me, you failed.
But Homer, it's not the number of bones, sir. It's the...
You have failed.
We actually get to see the Simpsons visit a Maasai village, a traditional African tribe, and there's a lot of actual truth to what we see on screen here. One of the things I thought was kind of cool, I learned on season 3 of Survivor when they went to Africa that there's certain regions of Africa where they in fact do drink cow's blood, as the Simpsons are doing here at this time before they spit it out, doing a spit take when they find out, hey, what type of animal's blood is this?
Cow's blood.
And they like spit it all over the tribe, but they just think it's hilarious.
Yeah, you think it's going to be like a disrespectful thing, and then all of a sudden the whole tribe starts laughing. Yeah.
But yeah, there are regions of Africa where they do, in fact, drink cow's blood for a couple of reasons. It's very, very rich in like protein and iron, and actually it keeps you hydrated as well, which is important if you're living in a very, very unpleasant climate in terms of heat and moisture. But a couple of things they did here that are not traditional to the Maasai tribe, but traditional to other tribes in Africa, are the lip discs and the neck rings that Bart and Lisa wear respectively. They knew that wasn't accurate, but they just, didn't have time to explain it for the little bit of joke that they needed to do.
Mm-hmm. It was a quick visual gag, so there's no reason to have a 2-minute explanation on each one.
Precisely. That's what this podcast is for.
Yeah. You're welcome, Simpsons writers and Dan.
That's right. Yeah, when you want to come back on the show and defend your honor, you just let us know. I don't know why I turned this episode into me calling out Simpsons writers when so many of them have been pleasant and nice enough to come on our show.
Yep. And that day, Best Darn Diddley was burned to the ground by, let's say, Mo.
And we're done. I knew it would end like this. So Homer is getting way, way excited. He's starting to dance around. He's beating the drums, and everything is great. The tribe are happy with him up until he takes it a little too far in typical Homer fashion, because instead of drums, it turns out he was paddling on the back of a hippopotamus's ass.
A hip-hop?
Hip-hop anonymous's ass. The hippo did not take kindly to this, and the tribe knew that hippos are very dangerous. It's arguably hippos are like far more dangerous than even like lions are in Africa. They're one of the more dangerous animals you can encounter, and they're extremely territorial. This episode does take some liberties with some other facts about hippos that make me crack up, quite frankly. The tribe is like fully stepping in. Kentenge as well is like really putting his life on the line, literally, to protect Homer. Homer grabs a shield and a spear, and his family. Which obviously, Hungry Hippo is a name of a very popular Milton Bradley game. But what I did not know until I read the trivia on this one, in the Hungry Hippos game, all of the hippos actually have names, and one of the hippos is named Hungry Homer.
What?
Which was also the name of the episode from this season. So we got a lot of things happening up in here right now.
One of the hippos is named Homer. I don't buy that. That's like a freaking rhino coming out of an egg. That's BS.
Yeah. Hold on. I'll confirm it. What are the names of the hungry hippos? All right.
Yeah.
Lizzie Hippo is purple. Henry Hippo is orange. Homer Hippo is green, which I feel is a misstep because Harry Hippo is yellow. I feel like it would have made more sense to make Homer the yellow one, but who am I to judge?
Almost names make sense except Homer. I don't okay.
Lizzie, Henry, Homer, and Harry.
Well, fair enough. At least he's green, favorite color. So
that's mine too. But again, I think it would have made more sense to be yellow. I'm not gonna lie. But
Hungry Hippos predates the Simpsons, doesn't it? It has to.
See, that would have been even better. They would have. I honestly, I forgot that was true, and I'm pretty sure you're right. But that
Hungry Hippos.
Wild.
Hungry Hippos. Simpsons did it before the Simpsons ever did it.
Wow, we're on to something here.
Yeah,
Homer's
dive deep into this.
Homer's able to make a makeshift raft with that shield and spear that he was able to ground, and somehow the entire family can fit on there too. Yeah, it's like one shield, they all fit on there like a damn canoe. And don't topple it over.
Yeah.
My favorite part, though, and legit might be my favorite moment in this whole episode. Homer's like, hippos hate water, and Lisa's like, that's not true. Which again, hippos are like they live in the water predominantly. Like, they are a very aquatic animal. But as this hippo chases down the Simpsons family, it gets to the edge of the water, and you can see it's almost like watching my dog. If he goes, not your dog, mind you, your dog is the opposite of this, but my dog hates the water. And like, yeah, it's like almost like he gets to the edge, and like you can see like the disdain in his face, and he dips one paw in, or hoof, or whatever a hippo has as a foot, and is like, oh no, and runs away, making you think that the Simpsons might actually get to safety.
Yeah.
But they are not out of the jungle yet, because the tribe actually starts to flip out a little bit. They're like, oh no, Homer, Simpsons, like, be careful. And we get this beautiful animation. I love this shot a lot and I think they've even done this before. I'm pretty sure they've ripped this off themselves, but the river forks up ahead.
Episode.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
In the Wild episode from like the early seasons, like they've been in the river a few times.
They've done this up the river. This time they've got a spear, so it's kind of a paddle. But basically, one direction to the left. It's the most beautiful, peaceful scene you've ever seen in your life. There's a rainbow at the end, and it couldn't be a more convenient passage. And the other side looks like the part of the jungle or the part of the land that you're not supposed to go to in The Lion King.
Don't go down that road.
Yeah, exactly. That road. We don't go down that road. Homer is actually bright enough to see this coming, and he does start
Lisa
paddling.
Lisa calls it out.
But Homer starts paddling aggressively, getting it. You're right. It is Lisa that gives the command, but Homer starts paddling aggressively towards the peaceful side, and it looks like they're going to make it. But then Homer starts to freak out a bit because on one hand, it's covered with a bunch of tiny leeches. And on the other hand, it's covered with one giant leech, and that leech has eyes, and it kind of menacingly glares at him.
I thought it was a piranha at first, honestly.
I got the impression it was a giant leech, and they talked about it on the commentary being a giant leech. So
okay,
who knows?
It was really weird looking either way.
Either way, at the last second, the wind picks up, the water turns them, and they end up going down in the foreboding path where they were trying to avoid. And as we see them heading down the scary river, that brings us to the end of our second act at the 12:23 mark, leaving us about 7.5 minutes, 8 minutes total left to go in this episode.
All right, moving right along, just like the river.
That's right. And we open up immediately with Homer taking control of the situation. He even says it declaratively. Here's the situation we're in. We're hopelessly lost and about to die. A crocodile swims by and he's like, hey, don't worry. Being eaten by a crocodile is just like going to sleep in a giant blender. Which is oddly accurate, actually. The whole death roll concept. I was like, okay, honestly, that's more true than one would hope.
Yeah.
Marge is wondering where this river could possibly go, but luckily Homer has a map. It just so happens to be the one on the side of his animal crackers box, and all it is an outline of the continent of Africa with a monkey on top of it. And he's like, ooh, monkey.
I just pictured that he brought this with him to like explicitly point at it with people and be like, I want to do all these things.
Yeah. I love that he looks at the map and is like, well, according to this, there isn't a river here. So he starts to take a step off the boat and Marge has to like scream at him to get back in.
Not accurate on that map there, bud.
Oh, another just beautiful scene. We get another like 3 or 4 natives hiding in the jungle, kind of overlooking the situation with the Simpsons. And they're speaking what sounds to be like a very aggressive language, like the way that they're communicating for an English speaker. The interpretation would be that they are being either hostile or mean or negative in some manner. But the subtitles that we get to explain what they're actually saying is like they are just being the most friendly people possible. They're like, maybe we should help them, we should welcome them, blah blah blue. Again, very peaceful sounds. It's like kind of like if you hear somebody talking in Russian, like same concept. It sounds meaner than it is usually, except for right now.
Yeah, except for right now. All of our jokes today, we flash forward to modern times, and they don't play out as well.
Yeah, it is what it is. Homer does take the he sees them and he acts hostily to start because he like throws the spear that they were using as a paddle at them, and then the guys are like, "Hey, that's not funny. I could have been hurt."
Yeah.
Oh, and this is also a great, like, we haven't talked about it since the first act at all, but like clearly the bag boy strike is still on Homer's mind because he's going to keep like referencing it for the rest of the episode. And he's very, very much on the wrong side of history on this one.
So you think they settled that bag boy strike yet?
That's when they realize that they're going to Victoria Falls, which they were nice enough to put up a double black diamond sign to indicate that, you know, it's going to get real.
Here's why they shouldn't get anything. 1.
Homer is still going on about the bag boy strike and why, even though they're like about to plummet to their death, it would seem.
Well, they do plummet.
They do go over a waterfall. Again, not the first time we've seen this happen to the family. We see that they're probably going to fall into these rocky, shallow waters below, but it turns out they actually miss the water entirely and land inside of a flower.
That's not how physics works, or gravity.
But then the petals close around the family, and Marge is like, oh no, it's eating us.
Not a chance.
And I love Homer just nonchalantly pushes through the flower petals, and everybody's like amazed. Bart's even like, wow, Dad, how did you do that?
It's a flower.
I like these jokes a lot when it just like kind of
one.
points out, like, yeah, well, we're just using logic here, baby. We get a nice little callback to previous Simpsons episodes and memes at this point, frankly. Bart and Lisa, instead of doing the classic "Are we there yet?" they're in the back asking over and over again, "Are we insane yet? Are we insane yet?
Are we insane yet?"
I told you. Yes. Now, Bart, go to the top of that hill and see if you can spot our hotel.
Mount Kilimanjaro?
Yes, go.
Okay.
And I love that he's like, yeah, just like agrees to it essentially, even though that would be literally impossible.
He's insane.
But just then, before the kids start to make the climb towards the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, a chimpanzee jumps out, and immediately they get the idea that, like, hey, maybe that chimpanzee will lead them to some bananas, some food, you know? And Homer's like, yeah, or maybe some more mouth-watering monkeys. That's where that monkey reservoir comes from.
I mean, they did it in Indiana Jones. Monkey brains.
That's true. Monkey brains. Yeah. They actually kind of follow the monkeys like Tarzan style, but they're all swinging on one vine, which is just a comical look. I will say there are parts of this episode, and I don't know why I feel this way so often when I do a traveling episode, but I find myself thinking this a lot. There are scenes in this episode that do feel like they would be more usual to see in like a Simpsons comic than they would be in a Simpsons episode. But I still enjoy the hell out of them.
Well, Miles, what I care about when we're swinging is the same thing that Homer cares about, where we get overtime pay for the bag boys.
Again, continuing his rant, even though they are literally following monkeys through a jungle. But the monkeys lead them to Dr. Bushwell's Animal Preserve, which was the actual word I was looking for earlier.
You go.
Lisa, of course, knows all about this. She's read about how Dr. Bushwell lives amongst the chimps. I love Marge here. Oh, isn't that sweet? He named it after his wife.
No, Dr. Bushwell is a woman.
What? Well, now I've heard everything. That's a joke that only works if Marge delivers it, and that's what makes it funny. That's what makes it funny. Dr. Bushwell seems to be very welcoming.
The monkey goes through a monkey door too.
Oh yeah,
the chimp that goes through like a doggy door, but it's in the cutout of a chimp.
Of a monkey.
I don't know why, but I found that funny.
I did too. Yeah, I also love the line here when they're being greeted by Dr. Bushwell. Bart's like, "Hey, thanks for the grub."
Grubs.
Hey, whatever. Hey, there's a burst of flavor, and he's literally eating a plate of grubs. Is the joke.
Well, Lisa takes her shine to her because her work has inspired Lisa and her love for sensible ponytail.
Right? There's so many professional women that let their hair get in the way of their work.
I just like when
professional women and me, for what it's worth.
Yeah, there you go. I like when Bushwell looks at the chimp and goes, "See, she likes it, Jojo."
So I noticed your home smells of feces.
Yes.
And not just monkey feces either.
Could we talk about something else?
Marge tries to change the subject, but Homer keeps sniffing. She goes on to...
That was a good visual joke when Marge is talking and Homer's...
Yeah. Dr. Bushwell goes on to explain her daily routine of waking up at 5:30 to watch the chimps eat a quick lunch of roots and water, then more chimp watching, and then after dark, she comes home to think about chimps until it's time for bed.
You must be the most boring woman on earth.
Again, Homer having absolutely no sense of decorum or just, manners at all.
The house smells like feces, Miles.
And not just monkey feces. One of the chimpanzees comes in to alert Dr. Bushwell of impending danger. It seems that the poachers have arrived and like to use bullhorns to announce their presence. Give us the chimps and no one gets hurt.
Absolutely not. Will you help me defend the refuge?
Anything for these noble animals. And he watches that, and as soon as Homer says that, they cut to a chimp scratching his butt on a tree.
And this is one of the parts too that I felt like it was maybe like too absurd. I don't know, like the lighting of the coconut on fire, like them.
See, I felt like this was earned. Like last week, we started the show off with absurd. Like they just didn't give us anything. They just cut right to the absurdity. This I felt was earned absurdity.
It just felt kind of forced to me, honestly. So I guess this is where we'll agree to disagree. That I don't recommend taking bees out of honey and then shooting them like blow darts at poachers. Possible poachers.
They did mention on the commentary, they challenge you to find anywhere else in animation that you'll see bees flying backwards like that. But yeah, they're fighting against these poachers. They're using all sorts of illogical means of doing so. Coconut grenades that actually explode when you light them on fire. Like a bunch of stuff that just literally doesn't actually make sense. Again, I feel like this is earned absurdity, but I could understand the complaint if you don't. I do. What is it? They hit the bees. Actually, they pop this Jeep's tires, but then in like a very like Michael Bay sort of way, the Jeep just explodes for no reason afterwards. And Homer just literally starts catapulting monkeys. Like he's using the thing they're trying to save as ammunition.
Somebody light the monkey.
After a little bit of a scuffle with Lisa, who was very brave to go and like try to fight a grown man for what it's worth, but his shirt rips open, revealing a Greenpeace t-shirt underneath, which obviously makes Lisa confused. But the poacher explains that that's right, and we're not leaving until we rescue every animal here.
Well, if you really cared about chimps, you know that Dr. Bushwell is their best friend.
And the poacher reveals, oh, is that right? Well, then why don't you tell her about the diamond mine, Doctor?
Diamond mines? What are you talking about?
But he was able to back up what he was talking about with proof because he pulls back a, it was basically like leaves, like palm fronds, and it opens up a mine shaft that they say is 5 miles deep, by the way. That is one hell of a mine
looking
shaft.
Inside.
Dude. That is one hell of a mine shaft for what it's worth. And we see that inside, the chimps are not actually being taken care of. They are the slaves working the diamond mines. They are against their will having to hammer and chisel and take shiny rocks from the mine and bring them to Dr. Bushwell. And we're gonna learn just how far her greed goes once we get back up to her like cabin or whatever. Though I find it kind of interesting that the Simpsons didn't notice any of that stuff when they were there the first time.
No. She's not at fault here. She even says, "Why? What a fascinating behavior! I must document this new activity."
Yeah, I don't think that one's gonna work.
So she pulls out a journal to jot this note.
A diamond studded journal.
It's encrusted in diamonds.
I do like that we cut to the chimps inside the mine talking with each other. One of them pulls out a giant diamond, and we see the subtitles like, "You idiot! That's just a zirconium."
Yeah.
But literally inside Dr. Bushwell's house, it's like everything is covered with diamonds. The lamp, the chairs, her shoes, all of it.
Bed.
Apparently, the shoe thing is actually a reference to a song by Paul Simon on the 1986 album Graceland. One of the lyrics has the line "Diamonds on the soles of her shoes." So this is a reference to that. Again, not a reference I knew. I won't lie.
Well, Lisa goes up to Dr. Bushwell now and says, "How could you exploit your beloved chimps like this?"
And Bart is actually standing up for the doctor at this point, saying that we should at least look at her research before we condemn her entirely.
Everyone looks at Bart like, what?
What? Hey, I haven't said anything for a while. I get it, Bart. I understand.
Yeah, that is definitely, Bart is definitely Miles' spirit animal.
So Lisa does take a look at the research, but it absolutely doesn't do anything to exonerate Dr. Bushwell. In fact, they're just pictures of monkeys from famous movies. So they've got like the chimpanzees from like Planet of the Apes and movies like that, essentially.
All right, so I snapped. You don't understand the crushing loneliness and greed.
Don't worry, Doctor. We'll get you all the help you need.
No, don't put me away.
And she holds out
diamonds.
She starts handing out diamonds, basically bribing them.
Everybody wants diamonds. Diamonds will make everything all better. Diamonds.
But the Simpsons are a family of convictions, and when they see an atrocity happening anywhere in this world, they are going to do their part to stand up and fight, unless they are gifted handfuls of diamonds each, which they are, so they take it and run. We cut immediately to the plane.
The diamonds screaming to them on a plane, holding diamonds.
And we just see Homer being like, "Oh, what a nice lady."
Very nice.
And Lisa does look a bit disgusted as as Bart pulls out 2 giant diamonds. Is like, hey, Lisa, check this out. Diamond vision.
Buzz off. But the thing is, Lisa wasn't holding any diamonds at the end. The rest of the family
Right,
was.
everybody else, you're right. Everybody else was, yes.
There's still one Simpsons morality in check.
We get one last little gag here as the plane starts taxiing onto the runway. There's new signs that say, Hail President Kitenge. And as we talked about earlier, everybody loves Kitenge. So it makes complete and total sense that when Muntu was overthrown, Kitenge would be the person to take his place. I love, though, he's like, hey, look, that was our tour guide. He got a new job.
Quite a promotion.
I was wondering what became of him because, again, we left him for dead.
Yeah. What happened to President Muntu?
And Muntu emerges from the back of the plane wearing a flight attendant's uniform, and he brings the Simpsons their peanuts. And Homer he's like, I don't want to talk about it. Homer in his kind of jerk ass way, I won't lie on this one, but he's he got overthrown. Now he's just a stinking flight attendant. Hey, where's my pillow?
That's also a really bad joke because Marge's father was a flight attendant. So that doesn't play well on multiple levels.
Yeah, also that's a very, very true. That one hasn't happened yet, or has it? Now I can't remember if we reviewed that one or not.
Yeah, we saw Lowenstein already.
Yep, you're right.
I'll say Lowenstein.
Lowenstein. Yeah, so that's fucked up because Homer knows about it too. Like, it'd be one thing if it was still a repressed thing that Marge hadn't revealed, but yeah, Homer very much knows about this. Well, I also do love that they're still not done with the Bag Boys, because as we cut to their closing shot with the credits starting to roll of an African Sahara-like view, the title cards pop up dedicating this episode to the Bag Boys of America. If it wasn't for they cited their greed and their ineptitude as an inspiration.
All right. See, that makes it sound like something happened to one of the Simpson writers and they're taking it out on them.
I just think they'd be funny, almost like in a troll-like manner, to essentially just take the side of evil on this one. It sounds like I don't know. Maybe they were being greedy. I have no idea what they were getting paid back then, but I have to assume it wasn't enough. That is going to do it for the episode Simpson Safari. Richie, is there anything else that you or that book of yours want to point out before we get out of here?
No, I think I've said everything I need to about this one. It's got a lot of really funny moments, but I feel like there's still just some parts that just don't quite sit well with me on some like transitional parts where they're waiting to get to the next scene where they throw some stuff in that for just whatever reason, they just didn't hit well with me this week. And maybe I'm just on high alert after last week where I'm going to notice it more. I mean, it's still a very fun episode. It's a lot of the times when the Simpsons go on vacation, it's a fun episode. But there are just parts of it that I felt like were a little rough. So, I don't know. More Kitenge, less throwaway gags.
That's reasonable. I think it's interesting. I'm just looking over IMDb, and I do have one more thing from the commentary to talk about, but I'm gonna mention this first. I thought it was interesting. I did not look at this last week when I talked about Bye Bye Nerdy, but I looked about it this week because I saw how closely they were rated. The lowest rated episode on this season is a 6.7. It is, in fact, Bye Bye Nerdy, and that doesn't surprise me. But what does surprise me is this episode is only rated a 6.9. So it is not the most popular of episodes. It's not again, there's less popular. It's tied with Tennis the Menace, for instance.
Okay.
And only 1.1 away from Homer versus Dignity. So, it's not like a perfect scale by any means, but it is a good representation. And I just think it's so interesting because I like this episode so much more than Bye Bye Nerdy. I don't know what it is about Bye Bye Nerdy that really just rubbed me the wrong way, but that was the first episode that I just like kind of didn't enjoy on this rewatch versus today's episode. Watched it 3 times, twice regular and once with commentary. Loved it all 3 times I saw it.
I mean, that's good. It could be that last week was such a low point for you that any episode that played next was going to be like a high one for you, for all you know.
Very, very true. And actually on that point, only because I was looking through, next week's episode is the highest rated episode of the season, according to IMDb. I hope I didn't just set our expectations too high, but that's, interesting to note, I will say.
Very much.
However, we're not done with this one yet, so we're not going to quite get there yet. I wanted to talk one more thing from the commentary. Yardley Smith asked about John Swartzwelder at the end of this episode, just like, did anybody talk to him about this? I know he doesn't do the commentaries or whatever, but like, what's going on? And it's kind of a joke, as we know, a running gag of how mysterious John Swartzwelder is. However, that prompted Mark Kirkland to tell a story where he actually visited Swartzwelder once at his home, and he was very excited to like learn more about this guy. But all he could say was all it did was confirm more than ever that he is a mystery wrapped inside of an enigma. The one thing he was able to say that stood out of him is, for whatever reason, not a picture with him, but on his wall at his home, John Swartzwelder has a giant picture of J. Edgar Hoover, just a portrait sitting there. So that is our new layer to the puzzle that is John Swartzwelder. Does he exist even? We don't know. But he has been a prolific part of our journey so far, and I think that's going to continue at least for a few more seasons of this show.
And we're going to find out it's a William Shakespeare situation where everyone was worried about how the episode would turn out, so they just put the Swartzwelder name on it. And everyone's like, you never noticed all the episodes were completely different and not similar in style and structure?
Yeah.
We're going to be like, got to rewatch all the seasons again.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, as always, we can't thank you enough for tuning in and listening to us ramble on for like 90 minutes about, an episode that takes 23 to get through. To be fair, it's only been an hour and 7. You're getting off easy this week. Double thank you to all the people that support us on Patreon. If you want to be one of those people, you could go to patreon.com/bestdarndiddly, and we would love to like buy some bananas or some monkeys. So, help us out with that.
We also have that one T-shirt website that we're supposed to promote.
Oh shit! We just sold a T-shirt, and I completely forgot we even had a T-shirt store.
Was it TeePublic or was it
TeePublic.com/bestdarndiddly? Somebody just bought our El Barto and the Whiz Kid. It's Mr. Most Days Off and El Whiz Kid in spray paint. So thank you.
I wonder if it was Billy.
Whoever did that. That would honestly make sense. Yeah, and if so, we love that dude and are excited to have him on the show soon.
So yeah, thank you guys for that. For the rest of our social media stuff, the stuff where you don't have to pay for it, you can follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off. Honestly, you do have to pay when you read what Miles posts on Twitter at Mr. Most Days Off. I'm at the Wiz_Kid23, and you'd probably have to pay to get me to post on Twitter. So there's those two things going on. Most importantly, you can follow our show. That's at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY.
Make sure you come back again next week when we're going to be reviewing the highest rated episode of Season 12, Trilogy of Error.
We'll try to win back your love, writers, next week.
And until next time, be cromulent to each other.